This is the number 4. Lecture number 4 about type of impression material. Let us start subject by subject, each title in detail. The first group, it is non-elastic. It means rigid impression material. It's a rigid impression material subdivided into some materials. The first one, impression plaster. All of you know, you must have some informations about the type of the impression. For example, impression plaster, in the laboratory, we will use it for pouring of the impression. For the second one, it's impression compound. What do you mean by impression compound? It's the ideal material for impression of completely edentulous patient. That means without teeth. The third one, zinc oxide eugenol. The same properties, but it gives us more accurately. Number 4, impression wax. All of you must have some information about impression waxes. The first one, it's impression plaster. It's rarely used. You must some information about it. You must differentiate between the impression plaster for taking impression and impression plaster for pouring. It is different. For pouring of the impression, you will use plaster of Paris. Plaster of Paris. But for taking impression, we will use a special type impression. We will call it impression plaster. It is the same properties, but it will use it for taking impression intraorally for the patient. The main component of this type of impression is calcium sulfate hemihydrate. When react with water, it produces calcium sulfate dihydrate, not hemihydrate. Dihydrate, it means two particles of water. But must be precaution, this type of impression must be stored in airtight container. What's the airtight container? A container that not enter the air. Why? Because these types of material, it absorbs water from the air, and at a certain time will be adversely affected. Tamam? The second impression material, which is the same, rigid, it is impression compound. It is a rigid, reversible impression material. Why it is reversible? Because when it is heated, it can change to soft. When it is cooled, it can return it back to hard. That means reversible. But originally it is rigid, no soft material. It is a rigid and reversible impression material. The change usually occurred by physical change, not chemical. For taking the main use of type of impression, it is primary impression for completely edentulous mouth. Impression compound classified according to ADA specification number 3 into 2 types. Type 1, low fusion compound, like what? Like green stick compound, this one, green stick compound, or medium fusion compound, impression compound. Number 2, it is high fusion compound. It's usually tray compound. It is ready-made, just put it in hot water. After that, take the impression. It's from its name. It's impression. It is tray compound for taking impression directly without need any tray material. This is the different types of impression compound. It is supplied, it's available in the market by either stick, cake, cone. Stick, cake, cone. It's the main application of impression compound. By the way, we have two types of impression, type 1, type 2. In the previous slide, we will discuss the type 1 and type 2. Type 1, what is the application of the type 1? Number 1, for making primary impression. Primary impression. Primary impression for what? For completely edentulous patient. Type 1, the main application, it's for making primary impression for completely edentulous patient. شوفون هنا أول صورة. The patient don't have any teeth قدر الإمكان. تمام؟ يعني لو بالجروب الفايبر يقولون ما يصير ولا عربي ولا أي لغة إلا إنجليش، بس أقدر تمام أساعدكم إن شاء الله. Number 2 for edentulous tooth preparation impression يعني for single tooth impression. Number 3 for peripheral border molding. This is the green stick compound. This is the peripheral border molding. Number 4 to check undercut in inlay preparation. Inlay preparation, what do you mean by inlay preparation? A preparation of single complex restoration. Type 2 to make a special tray. And make a special tray by impression compound. After that, take final impression by this impression compound for final detail. Requirement of an ideal impression compound. يعني إذا تروحون للماركت بالمستلزمات الطبية اكو مجموعة من الامبريشن كومباوند من الدولة أمريكية ما ألمانيا ما أعرف اكو مجموعة صح؟ شلون تعرف أي واحد أفضل؟ أول شيء نحن نقول هذا بالفلوس، أي واحد غالي معناته زين. لا، تشوفون أول شيء it must be hard above the mouth temperature. Number 2, be plastic at a temperature not injurious to the oral tissue. يعني ما يصير يجرح اللثة. Number 3, not containing irritating or toxic constituent. Number 4, hard quickly, uniformly when cooled without distortion. Number 5, when it's soft, it must produce a fine detail, good detail. Number 6, be cohesive but not adhesive, and not stick to the oral tissue. When imprint oral tissue, not stick to tissue. Number 7, not undergo permanent deformation. Number 8, dimensionally must be stable. When take impression, it must give us a smooth glossy surface after flaming. After trimming, it not cause deformation. The compositions of the impression compound: resin, filler, and lubricant. The main component: resin, filler, lubricant. Advantage of impression compound: it's cheap, reusable, not irritant. Impression can be remodified, resoftened again. And number 4, it can be reagained, reuse it after single use, and not for single time. After that, you must discard it. No, you can reuse it again. Disadvantage: not give us a good detail. Sometimes can cause compression of the soft tissue. By the way, what do you mean by compression? Number 3, distortion, to remove from undercut. And number 5, unpleasant taste. Number 6, the patient don't like these types of material. يجون للعيادة يقولون لا تستخدم المادة اللي يحرق اللثة. هسه المريض يجون يعرفون يقولون تستخدم السيليكون أفضل. المريض مرات يغير الشغل. Okay, we have some properties of impression compound. دير بالكم. شوف, impression compound is a thermoplastic rigid reversible material. It is warmed in 45 degree, but it is cooled to oral temperature at 37. يعني شلون نستخدم المادة؟ لازم نزيد التمبريتشر مالها إلى 45. يلا نستخدم للأورال تيشو. الثيرمال conductivity, it mean, what do you mean by thermal conductivity? It mean conduct the properties of the material to conduct the warm heat. When compared metal to plastic, which one الconductivity أكثر؟ الميتال thermal conductivity أكثر من plastic. هسه واضح؟ What do you mean by thermal conductivity? جيب two material, one metal and the second one bring two material. One material it is metal and the second material is plastic. When you increase the temperature for both of them, which material conduct the heat first of all? By the way, the metal one, الحديد, أكثر من plastic. That's why the impression compound thermal conductivity it is low. تمام؟ The coefficients of thermal expansion, it is high, 0.3%. يعني ال expansion it mean العكس الشرينكيج، عكس التقلص. It is 0.3. How we can reduce this thermal expansion? Either when before take impression, pass the impression onto the flame in order to soften the external surface and harden the internal surface. This is the first one. The second way, by spraying the external surface by cold water before insertion to the mouth. The flow of the material, sometimes it is harmful, sometimes it is advantage. During taking impression, when it is flow, it can cause injuries to the soft tissue because it is thermal material. For taking more detail, we need more flow. Glass transition temperature. From this temperature, the material loses its hardness or brittleness. What's the temperature? It is 35. Yani the material you can remove from the mouth after reach to the glass transition temperature. What is the temperature? This temperature, it is loose in hardness or brittleness. Fusion temperature, at this place, the material will change to plastic. The temperature is about 43.5 Celsius. The intraoral temperature is 35. The glass transition temperature is 39. The fusion temperature 43.5. The working temperature for the impression compound is 45 Celsius. Okay. You must use impression compound at the fusion temperature. If more than this temperature, it can cause remove the fatty acid. What's the advantage of the fatty acid in the impression compound? It is a lubricant. It's usually can cause softening of the material to form a smooth plastic mass. And below this temperature will not give us the more detail. About the dimensional stability, rocking movement, to prevent distortion, and to prevent dimensional unstable, the cast must be poured within 1 hour. Reproduction by the impression compound, it's low. Why? In the blank, we will give you like that. Why it is the surface detail in impression compound it's low? Because the impression compound is high in viscosity but low in flowability. You have two types of manipulation, either by the stick or cake. The stick, like a pen. This is the stick. I will show you. This is the stick. The second one, it is a cake. How you will use it in the clinic? Number one, we have stick. Small amount of stick material softening by the flame. Okay. After that, the softened material, put it on the impression tray. While the cake, all of the cake must be softening by the hot water in the special type of the bath. Usually we need 60 to 70 degrees in order to soften. After that, you can knead it and manipulate it by your finger to obtain uniform shape. This is the bath. This is the impression compound kneaded by your finger. After that, put it in the impression tray. After that, place into the patient's mouth. After that, this is the removal of the impression. This is the primary impression for completely edentulous patient. This is the final. This is the fine detail. The you have some precaution for impression compound. Prolonged immersion of impression compound in hot water, it's not indicated. Why? Because it loses some molecular weight. When you lose some molecular weight, the compound will difficult to handle and can cause thickness. Excessive water incorporated into the material, it will change the flow properties. After that, after setting, remove from the patient's mouth. After that, disinfect by 2% glutaraldehyde. After that, immediately pouring the cast. When you remove the impression from the cast, it must be inset into the warm water. After that, remove the impression compound in order to produce fine detail of the primary cast. This is the last slide